Hey guys, Stock Saturday, and it's a huge, great big red for me. It's about 7.3% down for the week, £14,000, which is not good at all when the S&P and the Nasdaq are both making all-time highs. S&P up about 1%, but I believe has just broke the high, and Nasdaq has comfortably broken the high with a 2.7% green week. So, yeah, not ideal. FTSE has actually had a bit of a rough week. The 100 and the 200 are both down a couple of percent, but yes, all overshadowed by me. Most of this has come from CleanSpark and the gold and silver miners. So let's have a look at why, well, at least why CleanSpark has been dropping. So it's Bitcoin, basically. Bitcoin has been down a reasonable amount in the last week, and I think we're also seeing people getting out of proxies, essentially. So before the ETFs were launched, people were buying miners, MicroStrategy, and Coinbase, and now that they've launched, some people sort of maybe will just sell and take the cash and move it elsewhere. Some people will sell and move into other ETFs, and that means the miners sort of don't do well at all. So CleanSpark is down 24% for the week, not good at all, and Bitcoin is sort of obviously down a lot less than that, but as I say, it's looks like partly people getting out of miners now that they can get into a liquid product or just taking the profits. So you've also seen Grayscale selling. So this was sort of a $25 billion ETF. They had 650,000 Bitcoin, which was essentially locked. People didn't want to, it was a discount on it. You couldn't really sell, redeem it. So now it's turned into an ETF. People are selling sort of wholesale, not so much on day one, but so this is Eric Balchunas on Twitter, provides sort of very, very good info along with James Seyfarth, and yeah, he's sort of shown Grayscale certainly on day two onwards, 480 million selling, 594 million on day three, 460, 582, so it's fairly consistent selling of Grayscale Bitcoin Trust, and reports, sort of read reports, that most of this is just going on Coinbase and being market sold, whereas, you know, obviously some people of these Grayscale people will just be selling again and taking the cash. Some people were sort of buying it as a trade last year because it was at 30-40% discount and expecting it to get converted into an ETF. So now that discount is gone. GBTC has performed a hell of a lot better than Bitcoin, and they're taking that off. They were never in it to be holding Bitcoin itself, so they're just taking the cash. Some other people will be swapping Grayscale for something like the iShares one because of the much cheaper fee. But you do have the sort of possibility that iShares, BlackRock, are able to get their Bitcoin sort of over the counter or from places other than the exchanges, buying directly from miners, for example. So you could have a sort of situation where Grayscale are market selling, huge amounts of Bitcoin, and the others are buying up elsewhere and not really affecting the price. So yeah, you have sort of 1.2 billion now in the Bitcoin one and over a billion in the Fidelity one. But maybe that doesn't, cause a huge amount of buy pressure on the market because you have actually seen, a net, if you sort of add up all of the flows into the new ETFs and take the outflows from Grayscale, you do have 1.1 billion net into Bitcoin. So to see the price drop is a surprise to some people. I would imagine sort of with some of this volatility, you have the public selling and sort of various other institutions sort of selling their Bitcoin now that the ETFs are launched. And yeah, it's just, we always said sort of after they got launched, it was, going to be a bit of a slow burn, sort of next few months, maybe even the rest of the year, for sort of real money to be flowing in over time. It wasn't going to be sort of the week or two after they launched. So yeah, not really all that bothered about that, but we'll see where we go over the next few weeks. I haven't bought any Clean Spark. Even on the options, they sort of just don't really look as good value as some of the gold and silver miners. So I will come back to what I've been buying. But speaking of gold and silver miners, we're not getting earnings just yet. That'll be a few more weeks, but we're getting production results. So Equinox Gold, one of my sort of favoured stocks at the moment. They've announced 155,000 ounces for the quarter. Brings them up to 564,500 for the year, which is sort of the lower end of guidance, but it's within the guidance. And the new greenstone mine is still underway to pour gold in the first half of 2024. So that should be good. I think that's pushing them on to sort of close to 800,000 on an annual basis. So they won't do 800,000 this year. But if you take sort of a year after greenstone is finished, they should hopefully do about 800,000 ounces, which is a hell of a lot. So yeah, they just sort of break down the guidance for each mine as well, sort of totaling up to 555 to 625, and they did 564, so fair enough. A couple of the mines sort of outperformed, but some were underperforming or on the lower end of guidance. That's fair enough. And balance sheet, not too bad. 192 million in cash and equivalents. I don't really like sort of seeing, you know, money available to draw on the credit facility. That's not cash, and we want to try and avoid debt wherever possible. And equity investments with a market value of 123 million. So that probably goes unnoticed to some people. And they have noted the Q4 results will be late February, so that is a little bit late, surprising. But yeah, we'll come back to Equinox a little later. So over to Pan American. I don't really highlight these all that much because it kind of just sits there in my other ISA, not really buying or selling. But they've been going through a great deal of upheaval with their acquisition, and they're now sort of pushing on to the higher numbers that they were expecting. So they have done 20 million ounces of silver for the year and 882,000 ounces of gold, which is a nice total, and it's sort of leading on to 2024 should be the sort of the full picture of what they are now doing. I mean, you can see this quarter was 267,000 ounces of silver, of gold, sorry, and they were saying they want to sort of get to 1 million ounces of gold. So that's looking promising. If you sort of take 4 quarters around that number, you know, round it down a little, and you get to 1 million. So not bad at all. And total production of silver, I think they were saying they want to be sort of at about 25 to 30 million ounces of silver. So that would need to come up a little. I'll have to keep an eye on that. But yeah, not too bad. And a bit of base metals as well. They don't really do a huge amount of base metals. I mean, you know, 9,000 tons of zinc. It's not particularly huge. Costs as well. So the 2024 production forecast. They are actually not saying that they're going to get to the 25 to 30 million ounces of silver. They're saying 21 to 23. It's not ideal, but gold production 880 to 1 million. Again, sort of they were saying 1 million sort of reasonably soon, but that's not looking like it's coming. Not very, you know, companies very rarely get to the very top of their guidance. And cost-wise, sort of on the high side, but not too bad. 16 to 18.50 an ounce on silver, and 14.75 to 15.75 on gold, which is okay. If we get a decent run up on gold, that'll be very profitable. So yeah, not my absolute favourite miner, but not looking too bad. So Fortuna silver mines, one of my slightly smaller holdings, but I do have quite a bit of options as well on them, has seen quite a drop, about 19% this week. They've released sort of some what I saw as reasonably good news. They've also paid down $41 million of debt, which is quite good. They're getting a reasonable amount of cash flow from their newly opened Segala mine. They've announced 136,000 equivalent ounces of gold for the fourth quarter. This is 107,000 ounces of gold and 1.3 million ounces of silver. The silver is down quite a bit, so that's not ideal. I've sort of highlighted before their silver mines are not too long for this world, quite a short lifespan on those, but yeah, it's turning more into a gold miner, which isn't the worst thing in the world, but I am sort of longer term slightly more bullish on silver, so it would be nice to see maybe an acquisition or something with the newly found cash. So I'm guessing the drop in price was a combination of falling quite a bit below the 2023 guidance for silver. They were sort of forecasting 6.3 to 6.9 million ounces, and they've got to nearly 5.9 million. This was partly due to a blockade in the Mexican mine. They've had a bit of trouble. Quite a lot of companies have had a bit of trouble in Mexico. Due to sort of various pay disputes and all sorts of bits and pieces. But on the gold side, they were sort of forecasting 282 to 320, and they've done 326,000. So, as I say, some people don't. A lot of miners don't often hit the top end of their guidance. Fortuna have actually exceeded the top end of their guidance, which was very, very nice. But yeah, maybe people are focusing on the silver side and, higher costs and sort of forecasts maybe not as they were hoping for. They've given this little table as their sort of 2024 forecast. So, yeah, silver sort of 4 to 4.7 million ounces, down from, they were forecasting 6.3 to 6.9 for 2023. So that's not a great total, but sort of gold in the 343 to 385,000 ounces is, I would say, more than making up for that. And then a little bit of base metals on the side, not too bad. All-in sustaining cost as well, sort of 2280 to 24 on the bigger mine, and then sort of 18 to 21 on the smaller Peru mine. But yeah, it's not a ideal cost for the San Jose mine. Hopefully they can do a little bit better than that, but that's sort of above cost at the moment, so not at all ideal. On the gold side, sort of 1800-ish on the Argentina mine. The Burkina Faso sort of high 1200s, and Segala is sort of 1150-ish, 1175 maybe, which is very, very profitable. So you can see they're sort of using an awful lot of this money to pay down debt at the moment. Could maybe do sort of a special dividend or buybacks, but I wouldn't mind seeing sort of an acquisition of maybe a smaller silver miner just to sort of bump up this number again, because you end up with Fortuna silver mines turning into a gold miner, and it just sounds sort of odd to newcomers. They're only a small stock as it is, not even, well, they've fallen below $1 billion again. So yeah, I would say we're not really expecting a huge dividend or sort of a load of buybacks. We can get that multiple increase by increasing silver production. So we'll see what they do. They bought a sort of exploration company for a bit of future mining, but that was gold, I think. So yeah, not ideal, but we'll see. So just looking at the news, it's been a real sort of up and down week. We've had UK earnings, sort of the including bonus number was a lot worse than expected, and excluding bonus was actually sort of right on the ball. So this sort of including bonus figure does, ratchet around up and down, above and below expectations quite a lot. I guess they're not particularly good at predicting what bonuses people are getting, but they focus on this figure, including bonuses. But the employment side was sort of reasonably good. Unemployment claims less than expected. Employment change over the last 3 months a lot better than expected, and unemployment was flat, and it was expected to rise slightly. So yeah, UK overall not looking too bad, but on the inflation side, we then had rather high inflation. Core CPI year on year was sort of expected to be falling. We're still way above the US figures, and it didn't fall. So was hoping for 4.9%, coming at 5.1, same as last month. This was partly due to, or mainly due to, on the monthly, 0.6% on the core. So not too good. Headline was 0.4%, expected to be 0.2. So yeah, headline CPIs actually rose year on year by 0.1%. So not good at all. You then had the EU basically come in on target. Theirs is falling. Core and, well, headline actually is up from 2.4% to 2.9%. Whether that's energy and food costs, don't really presume that is, but yeah, on sort of core, as everyone sort of tends, or central banks tend to look at, that is down as expected. Then on Friday morning, we had a very strange one. Retail sales for the UK far, far worse than expected. This was sort of December sales month on month compared to November, down 3.3%. Was expected a slight decline, which is unusual, sort of considering it's the Christmas month. You got Black Friday, I suppose, in November. You get a lot of sales from that these days, maybe less so in December, but I'd expect people buying their food in December, and that would sort of go into presumably headline retail sales, which were also down 3.2% on the month, and also sort of both down on last year. So not even good compared to last December, and strangely down from November. Maybe this is sort of Black Friday has a much bigger effect than it used to, but it was far worse than expectations. So yeah, very odd, and not the best news for the UK. So as I say, very mixed bag for the UK this week. So as far as the portfolio goes, I do have some greens. Stellantis sort of not faring all that well, but on the semiconductor side, Broadcom has now sort of CleanSpark overtook it for a little while, but without falling back, Broadcom is now my best performer. $1,211, actually a little bit higher than this with the FX impact as well. I think I'm about 190% up. So very nice, with the dividend on top as well. Taiwan Semiconductor, $114. That's seen a nice gain for the week. And then Hymax sort of bumbling around $6. It did fall down into the sort of mid fives, but has come back up. So that's doing reasonably okay. Emerging markets and process sort of not faring all that well, especially with poor China news on the process, with Tencent coming down, and the base metal miners sort of coming off where they were before. Rio Tinto sort of got up to quite a height at one point, up sort of in the 58, 59 pound, I think. And Vale and Glencore sort of coming down as well. Whether we're seeing sort of poor, I'm guessing this is partly due to poor China demand, but yeah, we'll have to see where we go. My pie chart is now showing 40% semiconductors, pretty much. So yeah, Broadcom is running away with it. So on the ISA side, obviously I'm being royally punished for not taking profit on CleanSpark. Obviously I should, but I didn't know which way the ETFs were going to go. Didn't really sort of put two and two together on the Grayscale selling. So, and people buying sort of CleanSpark as a way into Bitcoin before the ETFs. So yeah, fair enough. But we'll see where they go. Gold and silver miners sort of down as well. Coeur mining in down to 260. not ideal. Equinox hasn't really moved all that much, but then Fortuna, as I say, sort of coming right down. The REITs holding up quite well, but nothing really to shout about compared to the others. Stag sort of doing quite well, back up to $38, so that's pretty good. American Tower had come below 200 as well, so good to see that. And then Pan American and KGHM, no surprise there, sort of similar to my other miners coming down, but long term, I don't mind both. And then finally, Chinese tech, as I say, has been performing rather badly. Baidu, I was actually in profit on Baidu not so long ago, and that's now 18% down. Alibaba sort of at fresh new lows, under $70. So, yes, horrendous, but they're only sort of relatively small holdings, I suppose, compared to the overall portfolio. So, yeah, fair enough. And the option side, I have been reasonably active. Spent £2,000 of my cash, mainly on Equinox and Hymax Technologies. Coeur Mining sort of has, well, they've all come down basically, as I say, the stocks have come down, so the options have come down a great deal more. These were doing quite well sort of a few weeks ago. But yes, I have. It doesn't really show it here. I might sort of see if I can break these out at some point. But I had some Equinox options expiring in July, and yeah, I'm not really sure we see sort of the gold move that I'm expecting by July. So I sold those and got into end of 2025. End of 2024. I think they're January 2025 actually. So basically 1 year to run. I was thinking about the end of 2025 ones, but yeah, they were sort of, it was not so much taking a loss and moving into the 1 year ones, but yeah, overall I sort of bought a load more of the end of 2025 ones as well, because I just see Equinox as a reasonably sort of well-priced bet on the options. I think that could do really well. Hymax similarly, sort of $6 now. I'm hoping really in the next 2 years it could go to sort of $15 on the high side if you know, automotive industry does really well and they can do well off the back of it. So we'll see, but I bought about 10 more contracts of Hymax and yeah, put quite a bit into Equinox. Thinking of doing the same. I do have a bit of cash outside the account to add and top this back up again and see what happens. So yeah, we'll maybe go for some more options. It's the best best thing I can see at the moment. Sort of risk to reward. As I say, this won't be going into CleanSpark because they're just not particularly good value compared to just buying the stock itself. It's the sort of I always say with the options you need a stock that no one really thinks is going to go up. And despite the CleanSpark drop, I think people are obviously still positive for the Bitcoin itself and the miners doing well, whereas no one thinks gold and silver is ever going to do well, and Hymax is sort of a very unloved stock. So yeah, maybe continuing to put more into those two. Equinox, you see, is actually my biggest now by value, but these fluctuate a hell of a lot. So yeah, leave your thoughts in the comments below. Let me know how you guys are doing, and like and subscribe. See you soon.